Thank you. Well, I know it's sobering when you put it that way. I'm not satisfied with the glimmers of hope. I just want to share them when I see them. But I'm firmly of the belief that the opposition could take on Stephen Harper much more effectively if we cooperated on a daily, even an hourly basis. We have this strange situation. I didn't introduce the members of my staff who are here with me, but in the back of the room, Paul Noble back there is my legislative director he's from Victoria, but he works in Ottawa with me. And Craig Canton over here videotaping me is my outreach director coming down from Ottawa to see what life is like in Saanich-Gulf Islands. He doesn't ever leave. But on a daily basis, Paul's job is to track all the legislation. He wrote most of those amendments I've talked about. We have this strange physical setting. You've seen the House of Commons either in person or on TV, and behind it there's this long living room kind of space. On the conservative side of the bench, it's the government lobby, conservative lobby. On our side of the world, it's the opposition lobby. So we are all there, Liberals, New Democrats, Greens, four Bloc, one Independent. And we have to share the same lunch counter. They bring in lunch at a buffet. We share the same coffee machines. I don't know how many of you remember WKRP in Cincinnati and Les Nessman's Invisible Walls. It's as if they put down the masking tape on the invisible walls. I mean, it's really hard to even sit at a lunch table on the NDP side of the room. Not supposed to be there. I get sort of... So, if we could cooperate on it, now I had a few times that it started to happen. There was, I won't give all the examples of when I've seen it work. I'll just say, if imagining question period, instead of each party having a little rah-rah session ahead of time about how great their questions are going to be and how they're really going to stick it to Harper and they're going to get themselves on the news that night. Imagine if we set that aside and said, say on a question on the F-35s, I say the NDP F-35 point guy, brand new MP, he's impressive as hell. If you haven't watched him, his name is Matthew Kelway. He's fantastic. What if Matthew Kelway in the NDP would talk to the critic on defense from the Liberals, and they'd say ahead of time, or with me, okay, in question period today, I'm going to start with this. Now, if the Minister of Defense gives us that kind of dodge, why don't you pick up and ask it this way? The one time I saw it really working was we were working on the issue of the destruction of ozone monitoring stations. And Peter Kent was trying to deny that any ozone monitoring stations were being removed. And the Liberal environment critic sits quite close to me. Her name is Kirsty Duncan, and she used to be an IPCC scientist. Imagine that. She's never permanent. And I said, Kirsty, are you asking about ozone? She said, yeah, I am. I said, well, I've got a question today, too. What are you asking? And she said, well, I'm going to ask it this way. I said, well, wait a minute. I'm going to go check. And I ran down to the NDP and I said to Megan Leslie, Megan, are you asking our ozone stuff today? She said, yeah. I said, well, where are you in the speakers roster? There were a couple days where I was able to get, okay, Megan, if you're going first, and then I went back and said, Kirsty, change your question. Because Megan's asking the same question. Mix, and then I can do cleanup batter. I don't care. I won't prepare my question. And then we actually could begin, of course, they give the same answer over and over again by rote, but you begin to see a consistent effort to break down the stupidity of the government line and the conservative line. The problem with the way it mostly works is the NDP will ask a question and they get the answer. The Liberals don't have, they'll read the same question. It was exactly the same way. They don't. So if we work together on a daily basis, and if on amendments we were able to say, okay, what we did on C-38, we're going to stick together on this. But the toxic contamination of our opposition lobby is that the NDP hates the Liberals, and the Liberals hate the NDP, and neither one wants to let the other get any credit that day.
Egos.
It kills me. It's not even egos. It's not egos. I've got to say, it's not egos. Most of those members of Parliament would check their egos at the door if they were allowed to do a better job. It's the weird, I've described it before as sociopathic maybe, but maybe just, anyway, the spin doctor people who work for all these parties, as far as I'm concerned, they're interchangeable. The NDP spin doctors are just like the conservative spin doctors, or just like the Liberal spin doctors. All they want to do is score points off the other guy. They're not elected, they're invisible. The elected people are really good. I would say, particularly the opposition lobby, there's not one of them that I wouldn't just love to have, they're all, pretty much all my friends, there's nothing I wouldn't want to have over for Christmas dinner. They're good, and I'd say that actually for most of the conservatives too. They're good people, but they're given lousy instructions because the system stinks. Right? So if we could break that, so your question's a good one. How could we make the loyal opposition work? We could act as if we cared about the country more than about our own party.